Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Turquoise and Sasquatch, with me, Wendy Wilson. Today is Saturday, February 25th, 2023. I wanted to kind of do a second video of tell you like the things that are happening with the creatures and everything. So I'm back on. I'm going to tell you actually what happened last night. So this was already like dark outside. It wasn't even late. It must have been like around 8 p.m. or so. I was sitting like in our great room, the room that has like my big triangular windows. And I'm sitting, I have like a beanbag chair. It's like so comfortable. And I have like my little knitted, like it's an ottoman. It's like a little poof. So I got my legs on my poof. I'm sitting in my little bean bag and I'm just kind of stretched out. And I put my blanket on. It's like a little knitted blanket. And my kitten likes to kind of sit on my legs and she likes to be under the covers. So she got up on my legs and I let her in and she's laying there and she's falling asleep. So I'm trying to kind of hold like the blanket up so it's not completely on her, so it's kind of like it has like a little dome. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna put my head so it kind of, I don't have to keep holding it like I'm looking at my phone. I have like the cover like over my head, and so it's covering my head, and I'm like looking at my phone and I'm sitting there with her and like she's going to sleep. And the next thing I know, I heard like what sounded like a loud, to me, it sounded like a loud tap on my skylights. My husband was in the kitchen and we're like right almost close to each other. So I'm like, we're both like, did you hear that? And he's like, yeah, something fell like in the room that I'm in. And I'm like, no, nothing fell. And he was like, well, it sounded like something fell. So I'm like, no, I don't think I thought I heard like a tap on my skylights. It was loud. So I'm like, all right. So I'm still like under the covers, and then I hear like right where my sliding doors underneath the triangular windows, in that area, it's almost like tap, 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 tap to get it sounded like it was trying to get my attention. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I get out of the covers, I look, and I didn't see, of course, I didn't see anything because it was dark out there. We didn't even have the light on in the great room. I was just kind of sitting there in the light from the kitchen. It was enough for me. I mean, I was just laying there. He's listening to his news, and I'm just kind of looking at my phone under my blanket with my cat like on my legs asleep. So I'm like, so I'm looking, I get out of the covers and I'm looking and I didn't see anything. So then it's like, stop, like, do not scare me. And I said it out loud, like, whatever you're doing, do not scare me. And I pointed like at the windows and it stopped. Like I didn't hear anything again. So I'm like, okay, I go back under the covers. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to record. And I kind of recorded. I didn't really catch anything. Did I delete the video? Let me just see. Give me 1 second, because I probably deleted the video because I don't think I did. I didn't catch anything. I did. It's going to be on my cloud. So I'm just trying to show you. I try to record. Oh, actually, no, I think it deleted off my cloud too, because I deleted it right away. Yeah, it did. It deleted it. So I don't have it. It completely got deleted. So because it's a knitted blanket. It's a crochet. I think it's crochet. My daughter-in-law crocheted it for me. So it's a pretty, like, lavender and purple blanket. So I'm trying to get my phone like the camera through like the little openings, like the little holes in it. And I tried to record, and I didn't catch because it was dark. I just caught kind of a little bit of movement, but it wasn't enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, I caught something. So it was just like a little bit. I had to zoom in and really look and lighten it up. And so I deleted it. But there was something out there. But it stopped making, like after I said that out loud, it stopped. Like it completely, no more noise or anything. So I'm wondering if because I was under the blanket, they were trying to, it's almost like, hey, what are you doing in there? What are you doing? I think that's what it was. It gave me that impression of like, because it wasn't, normally it's like one tap, two taps. It's not like constant. And this time it was like, the first one was loud. And then the other was like, and I'm like, my gosh, what are you doing? So that happened last night. Then it was like, okay, I'm going to bed. Like, I'm going to go lay down. So we went to bed and everything. I didn't hear anything again. I know some of you have asked me questions, in the comments on my videos and my community, pictures and stuff. So I'm going to answer some of those because it's too much for me to write. Thank you guys just kind of interacting with me. And I got a question to see if I fed them. I do not. I didn't. When I started learning about, well, things happened to me for a reason. I didn't even know these things existed. Like I started listening. I was listening to like Coast to Coast on YouTube. And like David Paulides, like the Missing 411, and he was on, I guess, Coast to Coast, and I'm listening to him, and that led me to like Sasquatch Chronicles, and I started listening to like the encounters that they had on, and this is like early. I think this was probably like December or so of 2015. So I was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to hear all these stories because I'm thinking this is like so odd. I mean, at the time I didn't think these things existed. So it led me to that. And then, so I would listen, and I think it was to prepare me for what I was going to find here. Cause I didn't find my first footprints until like February. I think it was like a February 20, it was on a Sunday. I think it was February 28th of 2016. That's when I found the first footprint. I hadn't seen them yet. So, and then of course, that led me to the Outlaws. I think that's what they were called, the group of guys. And they were always like, do not feed them, because once you stop, they get aggressive and look like all these, I heard all these like bad stories. So I'm like, I'm not going to feed them. I mean, first of all, I wasn't even thinking about feeding them. And then it's like, I'm definitely not setting anything out for them. So I do not. I know that there were some stories that I heard that people kind of have a second garden, to kind of, that's their thing in the garden, is mine. Cause I think I had someone asked me, like, do they take anything? I haven't noticed anything missing. I do have other wildlife, like deer. They definitely, like, if they can get, I mean, they eat everything. Like there are times where like I can grow beautiful flowers, and there are times where like, if it's not deer, rabbit, or groundhogs, they take out my flowers. So I know that it's them because there's, I've seen them, and I found like, hoof prints and stuff. So it's them. And my deer have jumped into my garden. Like I do have a trail camera for those of you that, are new, and I do have a trail camera that I have set out. It's got weird lights, but they kind of stay away from the trail camera. And I had it placed like facing towards the garden, and deer were jumping. Like I have videos of deer in my garden, like eating. They've eaten our tomato plants, and so even though it has like an electric fence, they were jumping it. Now my husband put an extra, which is not it's not electrified. Like it has just like a string, and that seems to be keeping them away. We've tried like soap all the way around, like just to kind of keep them. Some things have worked, but so far, the past 2 years they've stayed away. The deer have. They leave the garden alone. I haven't noticed them take anything. We do have peach trees. We have apple trees. We have cherry trees. Now, cherries, I've only gotten a handful. But I think that's birds. Birds have eaten like the cherries because it's the 2 trees that we have up front. It's by the bird feeder. So I think birds probably take, because we've had a handful. One tree, I haven't had not even one. And I think that's a sweeter cherry. It's the one closest to the bird feeder. So I have not harvested a single cherry from that tree. The one that's in front of my window here, I've gotten cherries from that one, but it's only a handful. But I think it's our wildlife. We have wild berries everywhere here. So I think, deer also eat those. I haven't really noticed anything like my vegetables. They do jump into the garden because I have found footprints in there, and I've also found like bones. Last year I found a rabbit foot, like in the garden, like where I was working. Like the next day, it's like a rabbit foot. So I'm like, great. I come across like I think molars from, like, I'm assuming it's deer, like bigger bones, like deer bones, just in the garden. So I don't know if they kind of hop in there at night and they just, I don't know. They don't do that when the trail camera is facing the garden. They stay away from the trail camera. I did though, however. So again, this is the beginning in 2016. I kept finding footprints. I kept finding, almost, when you have a baby and you lay a baby down like on a blanket and the baby falls asleep like flat on its back. I kept finding imprints of a baby like on the grass, on the side of the house, in the front of my house. There's cedar trees. Also, there's a little cluster of cedar trees. Underneath the cedar tree, I could see like a baby, like somebody laid a baby down. The first footprints that I found were tiny. And I was finding like almost like little hands, like a baby crawling. It was like a little hand, like the little hand print. So I kept finding baby things, and I thought, oh my gosh, like in our cedar trees, the ones that are next to my garden, that's where I found a lot of the little footprints. I found bigger ones also. And then I found indentations, like there was somebody playing there. And at the time, this, again, 2016, the beginning, probably like March of 2016. And I was showing my husband, I'm like, look. And he was like, no, it's got to be like deer, it's got to be other animals. And he didn't believe me. Like, he was just like dismissing it, like that. No, you're just listening to too many of those shows. You're seeing things. So one day I decided, you know what? I know how to knit and I know how to crochet. The basics, just the basics. So I figured, well, you know what? I have extra yarn. It was like gray yarn. I'm going to knit a teddy bear and I'm going to stuff it and I'm going to set it out there. And I'm going to take pictures because I kept finding, like a little, almost like a butt print, like a baby butt print, like indentation, like on the ground there. Well, the first thing I did was I put a little, like a little Lego car. It wasn't touched. It was left. It wasn't touched at all. Then I had like this little, from my kids, it was like this little green foamy ball. The ball was moved the next day. So I took pictures of that and I'm like, oh my gosh, the ball was moved. And I showed my husband, but he's like, it's the wind. It was the wind. So I'm like, all right. Okay, could have been the wind because the ball was like foamy. It wasn't, I mean, the wind could have blown it. I'm like, okay. So maybe, that's not a good thing to put out there. So I figured I'm going to need a teddy bear and I'm going to show you the pictures of where I put it. So I'm going to get to that right now of what I did. But it wasn't to gift them or anything. It was mostly to, let me grab this other one. Hold on. It was mostly to kind of get evidence that there was something here. So as you can see, we have like these rocks that my husband has brought from like places, and we've stacked them to look. They're almost like two benches, kind of like benches or seats, and they're like next to each other. There's two sets, so it's like three rocks, and then and we kind of put them there in places where we think, oh, we might just kind of walk around the property. We might just want to sit down. So, and this is where I found a lot of like footprints and all kinds of stuff, a lot of commotion or whatever. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna place it there because I've seen like a lot of the baby, like imprint, like the little butts and footprints and everything. So this is where I placed it. So if you can see, I left, there's a car, the green foamy ball, and then there's the little teddy bear that I knitted. And I left them there almost like, okay, it's not going to be the wind that's going to move them. If it's moved, I'm going to know. So this is how I left them, okay? Basically behind the rock. So if it had to be somebody with hands if it's going to get moved. So that's where I placed it. The next picture would be, I think I was looking at the wrong one. Sorry. Okay. So this is how I found it. Okay. So the ball was moved and the teddy bear was moved. And I'm going to enlarge that a little bit so you can kind of see. So there's the car still in the same spot. The ball was moved and so was the teddy bear. So there's the teddy bear on its side. So this is how I left it. This is how I left it. Okay. And this is how I found it the next day. So I took pictures because there were, I don't think I have them on here. And I did, you know what? I don't know what I did with them. But you could see like the little butt indentation. There was something sitting there playing with this. Something tiny was playing because it was a tiny little butt print. And I'm going to show you also, well, I don't have any pictures on here. I'm going to describe what I found. But let me just get to the next picture and then I'll tell you. Okay, I'm going to have to. So I went ahead and picked up the teddy bear and it was dirty. So there, it was dirty. It was almost like something was dragging it on the ground. It wasn't even, I just kind of figured, you know what, I'm just going to knit it and stuff it and leave it out there. And I did it all like it was really fairly quickly. And I figured I'm going to get evidence. But it wasn't enough. My husband still said no, it was the wind. The wind kind of moved stuff. It does get windy here, but this was moved by hand. I think it was grabbed because I saw like the little butt print imprints and everything. But if you can see, that teddy bear was moved and it looks like it was played with. It was dirty, like somebody kind of, was playing in the dirt with it. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to tell you. So the butt imprints that I've found, it almost looks like a V. Okay. Like the ones that I found here, the younger ones are really skinny. So it's almost like this tiny little, I don't know how to explain it. I wonder if this is like more like a V. So it would be like a V shaped. And then it has an opening here where the legs are, I don't have anything but it looks like a V shape. And then the legs are kind of, they sit with their legs open. The the bigger ones, like they have really long, skinny legs. I have measured ones that are like, okay, inseam. I learned to do inseam. So wherever I saw like the V shape, and I saw like where almost like it would be an inseam, I measure from there all the way to where on the grass the indent, like the imprint ended. I measured and it was like 41 inches. And I not only did I do one leg, I did both legs, because I saw both legs. It was almost, yeah, like this. Like this is the butt and then the legs. I did both legs to make sure like I'm, measuring it correctly. If both legs should be the same length, right? So 41 inches from where the legs ended to here, and measured like on the grass. And there was one that was like 41 inches long. That's really, really long legs. Really huge, like long. But it's like a V, where the butt, and that's what I keep finding when I see, because I've noticed like the deer also like to kind of lay under our cedar trees, and the way they lay is different. It's not, they don't look the same, because I've learned to identify, okay, this is a deer. I can see like the way their bodies kind of lay, and then how these things sit. And to me, it looks like a V shape. And they leave the grass kind of weird. It almost like, sometimes it looks like they kind of burned the grass or something, because the grass looks a little bit brownish, kind of like dry. So that's what I did that just to kind of get evidence. Not that it was never crossed my mind like I'm living a gift, because it's not a gift. I just needed to catch. And I'm going to tell you what I did after this, because I didn't get any good evidence with this. At least I think I did, in my view, because it was moved and it was played with, but not good enough to convince anybody that there's something here, because my husband was like, no, it was the wind. So I'm going to take these off, and I'm going to show you the other ones. Okay. This one's here. Oh, it went. Let me go to the beginning. Hold on. There. Okay, so this day, I'm going to explain it, and then I'll make it bigger. So I figured, okay, this is still the beginning of 2016. I was going to the river because I thought that they only came here at night. I didn't think that they came during the day. I was really, really wrong on that. So, and I thought that, okay, I can catch them. Like they hang out by the river. And yes, they did. But I think they did because they were probably following me. I went to the river this particular day, and I saw one. I took pictures, and in my pictures is one of the first faces that I've ever caught. And it was almost like, I guess it was blending in so much that it almost, I guess people would call it cloaking. It was very like, I could make out the face, but it was hard to tell. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know I can see a face in there. But not everybody. I showed friends that I was kind of back and forth with them. And it was hard for them to see that. So I'm like, okay, they can't see it. So what I did was I drew. I kind of cut pieces of paper. I cut it and made like little sheets. and I drew what I thought I saw with charcoal pencils. The reason for charcoal pencils is if you've worked with charcoal pencils, you know that your fingers get all, it's all that charcoal gets on your fingers. So my thing was, okay, I'm going to draw this. I'm going to set it out there. And I set this one on top of the rocks that we have out there. Not on the bottom or anything, because I figured I'm going to put it on top. I wanted to get fingerprints. I figured if they touch it, they're going to leave fingerprints on the drawing. I was just hoping I wasn't going to ring that night, because that's what I did. I drew it real quick. I cut the pieces of paper, I drew it, and I set it on top of the rocks. And that was in one evening. And I figured I took pictures, and the next morning, or, when it was daylight out, I was going to go check and see. So I only drew in the front top paper. I left a little rock because I needed to kind of weigh down. I put I put 2 rocks on there. So it was like this little turquoise rock that I had, a pencil, another rock so the wind wouldn't blow it or anything, right on top of it. But I left it to where you could see like the drawing. So I'm going to get to that, and I'm going to enlarge that. So this is what you're looking at right here. My drawing isn't very good, but I saw like this face looking through these like trees. So that's what I drew. I drew that, if you can see that. And that's another little ball. It was another little ball that I was out there. That ball they didn't touch. It was only that green and then the teddy bear. So anyway, so this is how I left it. It was several papers underneath, okay, blank pieces of paper. Because I figured, in my head I'm thinking, I wonder if they're going to grab the pencil and scrabble. I mean, that would have been great. Of course, that didn't happen. But I'll show you what did. So this is, I knew exactly how I left the rocks, and I took pictures. Because if there was any movement, I was going to compare with my pictures and see if it was moved. So I went back out the next morning. This is how I found the papers. This is how I found them. This is like in the morning. The pieces of paper looked like they were left, like opened up as a fan. And the rock was still, it almost looks like it's still in the same spot. The pencil is no longer there. I found the pencil on the ground, and I found the rock on the ground. The other little turquoise one was on the ground. And the drawing was underneath one of the cedar trees that was close by. So there's the drawing. It was right underneath the cedar tree. So there it is. That's how I found it. The others. That's how I left it. I left it. My drawing is not very good. My drawing sucks. But I was going to do it real fast. I figured, and it was in like charcoal pencils. And I even left a pencil out there. How I found it. The rock was moved. It was fanned out. And then the drawing was left under the cedar tree. So I was like, oh my gosh. And again, I showed my husband. I'm like, look. And he was like, that was the wind. That was the wind. And I'm like, the wind couldn't have moved, like opened up the paper, like to look like a fan. But he still didn't. Like he was dismissed me. Like, no. And the reason why I wanted to get evidence is because I showed him and my, one of my sons, like my stepson, like, hey, look. And I had fresh footprints. They were fresh. And I'm like, look. And they were like, nope. that's just, the ground. That's just like, they basically dismissed it. So they didn't believe me. And it's one of those things like, I mean, my mom, my dad believed me. My brother did. I showed them the footprints. I'm like, look, this is what I'm catching. And they definitely, because that's not something I'm going to make up. But my husband was like, nope, nope, nope. And my husband was kind of like a very skeptic in the beginning. He's different now. But it was almost like, I need proof. But proof wasn't enough. It was almost like I needed a body to kind of show him. Now it's different. He knows there's something out there because he's here. He's heard certain things now and he's seen certain things. But at the time, I needed evidence. Like, look, I am really not crazy. There is stuff here. And things were that was opened up. And then since I didn't get, any prints or anything, I gave up. I'm like, I gave up. Again, this was in 2016. I didn't try anything else. I think I drew another picture. I had a little one climbing the jungle gym. So I think I drew another one and I placed it in a different area, but that one didn't get touched at all. So I'm like, that's it. I'll just take pictures. I'll just kind of, if I see footprints, I take pictures of footprints. That's it. Because I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to open something that I can't shut. So I don't want to communicate. Like, I'm not ready. I don't think I'll ever be. I know they tried to do that prior to me, doing that. I heard like, and someone asked me too, have I any mind speak or anything like that? I feel like I have a strong mind. Like, I don't think I'm very stubborn in some certain things, and I feel like I'm a strong-minded woman. Like, so even if anything tried, I block things out. I block stuff. I can block stuff out. So I'm like, I can't hear you. So even if it was tried, I'm not gonna hear it because I'm like, I'm closed. I don't, unless if it's meant for me to hear it. Like, I did hear once, we had walked down to the river and I was taking pictures, and in I did a previous video about one that it looks like a hooded one. That's that day I caught that picture where it looks like there's a figure and it looks like he's got a hoodie on. It's one of my previous videos. But I heard my husband and I were down there. We were the only two down there. And when we were getting ready to come back home, because we're like, we walk to the river. It's not very far. It's only a couple lots down from us. But I heard a male voice say, "Don't go." But it was like weird, like I almost had like a raspiness to the voice, like, "Don't go." And maybe I'll tell you, I don't think I've said this before. I'll tell you another story. So when I heard that, I stopped and I looked back and I said to my husband, "Did you hear that?" And he was like, "Did I hear what?" And I'm like, "I heard somebody say, 'Don't go.'" And he didn't hear it. So I'm like, he didn't hear that, but I heard it. And there was another day that maybe I did mention, I'm not sure. I think this was 2017 with the figure. And I heard the voice. Yes, it was beginning of April because everything's still kind of dried. Things weren't full of leaves or anything. The trees are still kind of bare. So I think this was like either late March or early April of 2017. And then later on, this is another time where I heard a voice. So my husband was working, trimming trees. I remember what he was doing. He couldn't have been trimming trees because that was in the summer. He was doing something. working up at the front here. And I remember I kind of walked our dog to like the horses because my neighbor, she's no longer there anymore. She sold her house, and it's a different neighbor now. But she had horses, and the horses loved, people, and interact. They always ran to the fence whenever we would walk by. So, and my dog kind of like, I would take her to kind of greet the horses and everything. And we were over there. And then I was like, well, while he's busy, I'm going to walk the dog to the river. So it was just me and the dog. And me and her kind of walked down to the river. And this was like around in the afternoon. It was like 5. It was in the summer, so it was still daylight. So we walked down to the river. And across the river, I heard a voice. And it said, hello. But it almost sounded like it was almost like somebody has like a mental, maybe like not a normal person. It sounded like it was somebody with like, there was more like, I don't want to say like mentally retarded kind of. It didn't sound like a normal like person. It was just like this hello. And I looked and I'm like, I can't see anybody on the other side. But I was like, hello. And I'm looking, and my dog, we're kind of like just looking over there. I didn't see anybody. I didn't see anything. And I'm like, all right, it's time for us to go. So we came back. I told my husband about it. And I had another instance, and this is like in between. This is still the beginning because, again, this is, I think it was still 2016. We had come back from like football practice with my kids. And I remember we came in the house, and I told my husband, well, I'm going to stay out here, like with the dog. Like they came inside, and I'm thinking, 'cause at this time, I'm still not sure, like what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm seeing. So I stood out there because I figured they come at night, and I'm like on the porch. I got all the lights on, and I'm standing there, and I have my dog, and I heard, it sounded like my husband. My husband was in the house, but it sounded like he said, what is it, Maya? But it sounded like a raspy voice. It sounded like his voice, but it was a little bit raspy. And when you said that to our dog, like she would kind of like, start barking, and it was her cue to see, hey, there's something, or sometimes we would say that. So she would get going, kind of get active, and she would go potty. So she reacts, and she starts barking, and, and then I'm like, I got angry because I'm thinking, why is he telling her, what is it, Maya, when he's in the house, I'm out here with her. So I walk in, and I'm like, why did you tell her that? And my husband's like in the kitchen, and he was like, what? And I go, you didn't say to her, what is it, Maya? And he was like, no, he was just in the kitchen. And my sons go, no, he didn't say anything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it wasn't you? It sounded just like you. So I think that they mimicked his voice, and it was the only time that I've heard a mimic. I didn't hear it like before, like that. I mean, before or after, that was the only time. Let's see. Oh, so I was asked also if I've heard like booms. I have not. Well, I don't know if it's considered a boom. So, what was the question that I'm trying to think. Also, if I felt, okay, I'm going to tell you these two things. we have had, but we have been in the house, and it sounded like, okay, so I'm going to tell you the story. And it was almost like, I was sitting in our living room. We were watching TV with my husband. I was in one section of the sofa, and he was in, we had like an empty seat in the middle. And I'm sitting there, and our sofa has like a recline. So I got the recliner out, and he's sitting like almost next to me. But there's like a middle that, it's open. Like, no, it's empty. So I felt like almost like a boom, but it was like I guess it would be considered a boom. And we looked at each other, but I actually felt it. It almost felt like somebody hit the back of the sofa. Like I felt it, like in my back, and like it came to my chest. Like somebody hit the back of the sofa. We both heard it because he was like, "What was that?" And I'm like, "I felt it." And we thought that was odd. It wasn't like, like traumatizing or anything. It was just like somebody hit the back. It felt like the back of where I was sitting, it was hit on the back. And it was almost like a boom kind of sound, but I felt it. And, but it wasn't anything scary or anything. We left it at that. And then, a few weeks, maybe months after, we were in bed, and my husband's laying in bed, I'm laying in bed, and we heard it again. And the funny thing is, my husband said he felt it. And he felt it like I'm assuming it was probably chest area also. But he felt like it was like underneath the bed. And I'm like, I heard it, but I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything, but he did. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so odd. And those were the only times that we've ever heard and felt. Like, I felt it once and he felt it completely different. I think this was even like months apart. And it hasn't happened. So it's only been twice, and it hasn't happened since. There was one time that I was outside in the evening, and this was summertime again. I was standing out there, and I think my husband was out somewhere in the front. I don't think he was close to me, or I don't know if he walked in. I can't really remember like where he was, but I know I was by our driveway, and I'm standing there, and towards across the street, like I heard like something like coming towards me. Something was like coming and heavy, and I kind of started to get a little bit scared. I'm looking, but I didn't see anything. And something inside of me said to me, like, stand your ground. Like, I know you're scared, but you stand. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can hear it. And I feel like the ground is like, because it's heavy, it's coming like towards, like straight toward, like a straight shot to me. And again, when I heard that inside of me, like, stand your ground, like, I know you're scared, but just stand. I stood there, and I'm like, okay. I'm gonna stand here, and I'm looking across the street because I can hear it. And then it stopped. And it stopped. Like, it's still across the street. And our neighbor has like pine trees, like tall pine trees across. So I still can't see anything, but it stopped before those pine trees. And I'm looking. I can't see anything, but it stopped. And I'm standing there. I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready. Like, at this time, I'm thinking, okay, it stopped. It's not coming straight to me. It's almost like I'm still standing here. What kind of a thing? because I stood there for like a couple more. I mean, it felt like it was, I stood for a long time, but I'm sure probably it wasn't. And like I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything else. So I'm like, okay. So I mean, it didn't approach me. Like I heard it and I felt it. It was like coming like really fast and like heavy and strong. And I did, like, again, I felt scared, but something inside of me told me to stand my ground. And I did. I stood my ground. And then it was like, oh. And again, that was the only time. Nothing like that has ever happened again. It was just weird. Because I mean, it was on one time. And again, they were, whatever it was or whatever, they were here before we even bought this house, because my neighbor said that, he found footprints in the snow and it had like a 6-foot stride. And he basically said it came from his property to the property between us and him, to the corner of our property, and then it left towards the river. And he's also heard weird noises at night, but it's only one person that has said that to us. And at the time, we didn't want to ask too many people because we were like new, and when it seemed like the crazy new neighbors. But now, we've asked, and nobody believes anything. Like they're like they don't exist. And when I first moved here, I would take pictures because, I had to clean the house because, it wasn't clean enough for me and, my kids. So I had to do the floors and before we even kind of got our stuff in. And I had painted these director's chairs that we had. And I was taking pictures of the chair, and our blinds were up in because this side of the house faced like an empty lot and it had lots of trees. So nobody's going to, it's nature. Nobody's going to see us from there. At least I thought. So I took pictures, and now that I look back, because they come up on like my memories and stuff, I see faces in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, before I even knew that they existed, they were already looking in my windows without me even knowing that. So I think that they probably checked us out, and then they thought, oh, these people are okay. There's something about us that they seem to be comfortable with or something, because again, I kept finding baby footprints, like indentations on the grass, like somebody laid a baby down, and I keep seeing like little ones, like I see them with the naked eye. So unless they think, oh, this property is okay, we're not evil people. We're basically live and let live. We are respectful of nature. So I'm assuming they think it's okay. And then I also posted a previous video of a little, one of my neighbor's grandson, when he said to me out of the blue, the predators come here. They like you. That's why they come. So they like me. I guess that's why they come and, check us out and make sure. They always seem to be out there. They always seem to be outside when we're out there. So, I don't know. It's not something, again, that I left any. I don't see them as leaving gifts. I just needed to catch evidence. And nothing. Oh, somebody asked me if anything was taken. No, not that I know of. Like nothing. The only thing that they have knocked down have been, like, my husband has placed like rocks, kind of like where our shed is. we wanted to kind of make a path into our woods, and he's put like rocks on both sides to make it look like an entrance. One side keeps getting knocked down, and it's almost like somebody has walked through and left the rocks. And I'm thinking those things are heavy. And he tried to kind of put them back up, but they kept getting knocked down. So now it's like I'm just gonna leave them. He says they seem to not want that side to be, so they keep knocking it down. So he just left it as is. But that's it. So I hope you're having a good Saturday. I won't take any more of your time. But thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and commenting. Thank you guys. I just figure you guys get to hear me rant about my stuff. Just the weird stuff. But thank you for being here with me. And I'll try to get on when I can. But enjoy your weekend. Bye.